Hello, I'm Matt Barfield, Vice President of Field Ministries for International Partnership Ministries, and I'm speaking today with an IPM church planter in Hong Kong, Brother Louis Kong. Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you, brother Matt. Glad to be here again.
Thank you, Louis. Louis Kong has been serving with IPM for the past 5 years. Prior to joining IPM, he studied seminary in the United States and then served in church ministry in California. After that, he and his wife Ruby returned to Hong Kong to plant churches there. And because he's there in Hong Kong, because he's been dealing with the COVID-19 coronavirus crisis there, I wanted to interview him today to get his perspective on what they have faced as Christians in Hong Kong with this virus ravaging that area. And then as a church planter, as a minister, what God has done for them to bring them through this for his glory and for the furtherance of the gospel. So first thing, Brother Louis, just can you tell us what has gone on in Hong Kong, maybe stories you've heard from the mainland also, about what this virus is, the reality of the disease. What have you seen?
Yes, we heard about the coronavirus outbreak in the city of Wuhan right before the Chinese New Year, around the end of last December or early January. And little did we know, as everyone, that it would become a major viral outbreak in Wuhan and also in other cities in China. And you can imagine at that time we were going about life just as normal. And but I also heard from some brothers who did business with China on a regular basis that they heard something seriously wrong in Wuhan. But it seemed like the Chinese government was trying to calm the public by just painting a picture that the country was healthy and wealthy and going to be prosperous. The Hong Kong local government also didn't want to upset China. Seems like that. And so they also acted in line with China by telling Hong Kong people that it's not a must to wear surgical masks to prevent themselves. That it's not a must. Just use hand sanitizers. But Hong Kong people, we noticed something going wrong, seriously wrong there. So we acted on our own initiative to buy protective and preventive substance to protect ourselves. Later on, one brother who really knows the situation, because he has a partner in Shanghai, told me that his partner in Shanghai is canceling out all his vacations to Wuhan because he knew something wrong there. Wow. And then later on, by the end of January, the Hong Kong government, sensing the reality and the severity of the virus, they decided to shut down all the schools and to demand all the employers to allow the employees to go back to work from home. And from that time on, actually our church had to stop all the physical gathering because we know the outbreak has been affecting so much.
And what date was that? About what date did you stop meeting together?
The last day that we met together was right after the beginning of Chinese New Year. That was January the 24th. That's the last date. Okay. That we gather together. And since then, we have been gathering only online. First using IG, and then last week we used IG and Zoom together.
Yeah, so some people might not know the IG abbreviation is Instagram. So I'll just throw that out there for our side of the conversation. So Instagram is what you use. Zoom is what you're going to use now. I know churches here are trying to experiment with those things. So it's interesting to hear you've been a few months into this and you're going to move to that Zoom thing. So when I don't want to interrupt totally what you're doing there. I like that. But let me just ask this. Through all of that, how many people that you know personally have contracted, how many of those have contracted COVID-19?
Praise the Lord. Our immediate church family and the extended church family members none of them have contacted.
And your disease. Church size right now is about 50, 60, 70?
About 50, 60s.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, including the people that we know and come
Sure.
once in a while. Yeah,
So those people, none of them have contracted COVID-19.
no,
You haven't gotten it, and as family members or friends, things like that.
no.
Good.
The
Praise the
the
Lord.
number of confirmed cases in Hong Kong is amazingly low,
Okay.
thanks to people's own initiative,
Okay.
not the government. Yeah.
Hmm.
But
Wow.
there are people who are around us that we know have confirmed cases.
Okay.
People, yeah, and the government have made it known to everyone, so we can take precautions when we go into those neighborhoods.
Yeah. I don't want to get into anything controversial, but the numbers that we're hearing, just in general from the Chinese government, is that about 3,000 have died from this. Is that number lower than the reality?
There is in question
Okay.
how accurate that number is.
Okay. Okay. So we don't
Yeah.
know, but there have been at least 3,000, and perhaps even more, potentially even more.
Right.
Through all of that, what has God done? I know God's obviously at work in crises. What has God done that you've seen in the midst of all this disruption?
God has done first of all in local people's life, those unsaved people's life, so that they really realize what is important in their life. We found that people are much more willing to talk about moral things and spiritual things. They can really have time now to stop and think.
Right.
People, even when you run into people who you know, who are your acquaintances, you don't know them very well, but they are willing to stop and talk and express their worries and what their burdens. So this is what we have seen in the neighborhood. Within our own people, we have seen people's willingness to readjust their priorities, and so we are having a very good attendance every Sunday, and some of those who have not been able to come or who have not come for quite a while, we can see their names online, and some of them come quite regularly.
Oh wow!
We have also new people come too, and this is a fact with other missionaries too, because in our fellowship we talk about this phenomena, and we were thanking the Lord that this is not what we wanted, to get online, but the Lord is using it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So here's this thing that seemingly limits your reach to people, the reach of the gospel to people, but
Right.
God's doing the opposite. He's using it to get to
That's
people
right.
in more profound ways than you were before. The people that weren't coming are now attending a church service because it's on the computer. That's going to take some interesting thought, I think, to kind of wrap our heads around
Right.
that. But at any rate, praise the Lord, people are hearing the gospel that weren't hearing it before. That's awesome. That's awesome. So what have you had to do to adjust? How does that, as a preacher, as a minister, what is that doing in your mind? How are you adjusting to meet those needs?
Yes. For example, we used to have evangelistic Bible study one-on-one or in a batch,
Right.
like a class setting. Now I'm using online video lessons.
Okay.
Yeah, so the person would have a short time prayer with me, and then the person would watch the video, and after that I'll have like Q&A time with him. And it seemed to be quite effective too. I'm having one with this recent postback, and seems he's getting it.
Wow.
The message going across.
And like you
And
said
I'm also-
before, he has time now, so he's able
Yes.
to stop and think about it. That's very interesting.
Yes, and I'm trying to get people involved too. I mean, our people to get
Sure.
involved with producing this kind of material online. And so I'm designing a digital tract. Well, I have never thought about that before, because I want to get in touch with people physically. But now
Right.
I'm doing a digital tract. I have written already the draft, and I have asked our people to be involved with finding the right pictures, finding the right diagram, so that it would be like a video message, a short video message as a tract.
Wow.
And the content also have writings tied into what we have just happened, about the virus and people's sin, because people try to cover the truth that this virus is so contagious, and the main reason is people's sin, and they want to deceive, and they want to get what they wanted. So the message of the gospel tract is tied into what happened recently, so that it will catch more people's attention, and hopefully the seed will be shown into more hearts.
Wow, that's interesting. Now, as you get that up online, do send that to IPM, and we would love to share that. And just to give ideas, I know lots of pastors are thinking, how do I do this? And you're a couple months ahead of us on the curve in terms of having to think, well, how do I do this? Even if it's in Chinese, it would be helpful to us just to see how it is. So don't worry about the language barrier. Maybe we'll post that on the ipmworld.org website so people can see that where we post this video. They can go to ipmworld.org and find this video, and then also find links to things that come in around the world as people get ideas on what to do. So before we go, I don't want to take too long on this video. I know you got to go to sleep because it's the wrong time of the day for you, but what would you want to convey to the church in America, other places that might deal with this virus in the future? What were things that you would like to say, hey, this is so important, God taught me this?
Sure. I would say the threat of the virus is real and can be fatal. The elderly and those who are with chronic disease are much more likely to develop fatal complications. Since it is highly contagious, the worst will happen is to naively allow the hospital and medical system to be overloaded with seriously ill patients. But don't be panicked. But be wise to be on guard against the virus by putting the essential stuff on. Trust the sovereign Lord as your ultimate shield, and seize on the opportunity to make disciples while hearts are restless and tender. Be creative and techy. Try to be techy while holding on to the doctrine of the local church. And that's why we're explaining that. So may God see fit to multiply our harvest for Him in the field that we serve.
That's the right attitude. God's going to grow his body through this. There will be people added to churches because of this, and we're praying for that. And I think you said techie, use technology, right?
Technology.
Yeah.
Yes.
I also heard the word tacky, which might also be helpful if you want to dress with loud colors. The word tacky has certain things in our culture. So anyway, yes, do use technology. Do be creative. I think that's really awesome. Well, brother, thank you for this time. Thank you for your testimony, for what we've heard about what God's doing there in Hong Kong. It's really a blessing to be able to talk to you and to know that God's at work. This is not limiting God in any way. And we serve a God who is greater than all these things. He's going to enable us. He's going to give us grace. And we are more than conquerors through Him that loved us. So thank you for this.
Thank you. Thank you for the encouragement and the opportunity to share.
Yes, I'm sure we'll talk to you again. And we'll get to hear more. Maybe we'll share more about what God's doing on this side to encourage your heart. Also, thank you all for joining us, watching this video, and join ipmworld.org. Look at our website there to learn more about what God is doing around the world, especially through this COVID-19 crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.